All right, good people. The playoffs have come early. That's right. The Seahawks hosting the Jets. Got two teams that are kind of like looking into a mirror. Not in terms of the way the teams play necessarily, but in terms of the pattern that this season has taken for both teams. It is like looking into a mirror. They're both 7-8. They both got off to good starts. There was a lot of promise at one point. And then over the last month to month and a half, things have just gotten away from them. The Seahawks dropped from a team that seemed guaranteed to make the playoffs to a team that now has like 3-1 odds against. The Jets went from a team that seemed likely to make the playoffs to a team that is now even thinner than that. They're starting to hang by a thread here. So we've got something in common with these New York Jets, and they're going to be coming 3,000 miles across the country to play in Seattle, and it's basically loser leaves town. If the Seahawks lose, they're not going to be done, but by the time the game is over, they may very well be. And if the Jets lose, they are done. If the Jets lose this game, it doesn't matter what else happens, they're packing for Cancun. They're thinking about the offseason, they're thinking about 2023. So the playoffs have come early for both of these football teams, the Jets and the Seahawks. And it's hard to really know what to expect from these crews, from these two groups. It's hard to know what you're going to get. Obviously, the Jets get their quarterback back, their by far best quarterback on the team back, and I know that's not saying a whole lot, but maybe it is. I mean, Mike White's really had some nice moments so far this year, and he's clearly proven himself to be far superior to any other option they have. Obviously, the Seahawks are getting a key piece of their offense back this week with Lockett. I can't downplay his significance. But what are we going to get from these two teams that are just in free fall, desperately trying to find a win? I hope that our coaching advantage, or our theoretical coaching advantage, comes into play here. You're talking about a guy who's been in football as a coach for, what, 50 years almost? Who's been a head coach in this league for 15 plus years total, versus a guy like Saleh, who I like. He's obviously doing some good things over there in New York, but young guy, not a lot of experience, a Carroll protege in some ways. You would hope there would be some kind of advantage there in a game like this where both teams are just trying to dig themselves out of a hole, but both teams are going to be desperate. So let's do our best to break it down. Let's do our best to figure this one out. So the Jets are a team about defense. Even when Mike White's been in there, even when Mike White's been playing well, they're a team that's more about defense than offense. And it all starts up front for them. They've got one of the best young interior linemen in the league in Quinnen Williams. He's been phenomenal this year. He's got 12 sacks from the interior. So much of what they do goes through Quinnen Williams. He's almost certainly their best player, I think. And it's not just that. They're getting a good year from Sheldon Rankins. Carl Lawson's been pretty good for them. He's got half a dozen sacks so far. They've got a hyphen guy on that defensive line as well who's played pretty well for them. So right away, I'm looking at this offensive line that we don't know what's going on with Abe Lucas, and unfortunately, we do know what's going on with the guys on the interior. They're just not playing well. Gabe Jackson, Phil Haynes, Austin Blythe, whoever it is, those guys are problems right now. And right away, I can tell you that if I see Quinnen Williams one-on-one in this game against Austin Blythe, it's going to be hard to resist the urge to change the channel, because that is not a matchup we need to be seeing ever. I already know how that movie ends. So right away, I'm looking at that defensive line against our offensive line, and I'm wondering, is this going to be another game where Geno gets beat up like he did against the Kansas City Chiefs? Is this going to be another game where Ken Walker's getting hit in the backfield every time he touches the ball, whenever we try to run it up the middle? I'm trying to put it together, and it's not easy. It's not easy to figure this one out. It's not easy to piece it together, but that's the challenge in front of us. And the Jets' defense doesn't stop there. They've got maybe the best corner tandem in the league. Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, that's an elite duo. Sauce Gardner's already one of the best corners in the league. DJ Reed's built really well on his breakout year last year in Seattle. and he's played so well, even though Seattle's cornerbacks have been some of the best parts of their team so far this year with what we've gotten from Woolen, Jackson, Kobe. You still got Seahawks fans who are lamenting letting DJ Reed leave the building last offseason. So right away, it's strength on strength. We've got good receivers. We're really happy about having Metcalf. We're happy about having Lockett. We're excited about all that. But at the same time, you're running into the Jets' position of strength there with the great stuff they have at corner. They're getting some nice play out of their safeties, too. They got LaMarcus Joyner back there. He's having a pretty decent year. It's not a weakness. There's no weakness you can exploit back there. So right away, I'm trying to piece this one together. And let's not forget, Marquise Goodwin has been downgraded to doubtful as of the time of this recording. So unfortunately, the odds are good that Marquise Goodwin does not play. So your receiver depth, which is basically non-existent, is going to get tested against a really good secondary. So the key is, can we find a way to get the running game going? And you probably can't do it up the gut. I'm going to say that right now. CJ Mosley's another guy who's having a really nice year. He's one of the league leaders in tackles. PFF likes him. All the advanced metrics like him. He's playing very well. But you got to find a way to run the ball. The Jets are more susceptible to the run than the pass, which is why having Ken Walker for this game is going to be huge. We got Ken Walker in town. We got Ken Walker ready to go. Fresh legs, according to Pete Carroll. So hopefully that spells a big game for him, because as much as I would love to go into this game and say, okay, we got Tyler back, Noah Fant's ready to go. Sounds like Abe Lucas will play. That would be my guess right now anyway. Time to air it out. Time to try to ride Geno. And you know Geno wants his revenge on the Jets. This is another revenge game for Geno. But bottom line is, I don't think that's how you beat this Jets team. I'm not saying you can be afraid of those corners. Definitely no. Don't be afraid to attack those corners. Don't be afraid to go at Sauce a little bit. Don't be afraid to go at DJ Reed a little bit. You've got two really good outside receivers who are having really nice years. Just you do have to trust them. You do have to hope that they can win their matchups. But my first thought in this game is, got to find a way to run the ball better. And that probably means you got to get away from the up-the-gut runs. Those are not going to work in this game, running into Quinnen Williams and Sheldon Rankins and CJ Mosley. Get creative. Get the ball to the outside. Run off tackle. Run outside tackle. Maybe do some fly sweeps. Haven't seen one of those in like 8 years, it feels like. Let's see some of that. So that's the stuff I'm thinking about going into this game on offense. It's a tough Jets defense. I know Joyner is questionable. They may not have him. They have a couple of depth guys who may not play in this game as well, but they've got their big guns. And that defensive line could be a nightmare for this Seahawks offensive line, especially in the state that it's in right now. I see those things, and all I can say is that we got to find some balance here. We tried to find balance against Kansas City. We had some luck, but at the end of the day, I think not having Tyler Lockett, not really getting good play from your offensive line, especially after Abe Lucas goes out and you're down to a left tackle playing right tackle, it's just... It's tough to figure it out. It's tough to put it together. I understand that, but now you're hopefully getting most of those guys back. Figure something out there. On the other side, this Jets offense, they've mostly been bad this year. They've certainly been better with Mike White out there, but they've still had bad games with Mike White, if we're being honest. It's an offense that really doesn't have a great offensive line yet. Their best player up front's probably their center, McGovern. Other than that, like they've imported 2 former Seahawks tackles in Dwayne Brown and Fant. Neither guy's playing particularly well this year. Brown's been okay, it seems like. But neither guy has a ton left in the tank. Dwayne Brown was obviously kind of a break glass in case of emergency option for them. So that front line has some real problems, and that's the thing you got to exploit. We had a little bit of improved success against the Kansas City Chiefs in getting pressure. So in this game, you got to build on that. You're playing a pretty bad offensive line. You're playing an offensive line that is full of players who PFF has been consistently down on. You might even get to play a backup because the right guard, shoot, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's questionable. So I think that you put all that together and you say, okay, pass rush, you've done nothing but disappoint me this whole season, basically. You've been a huge, huge detriment to this team trying to win games. But this is the moment. This is a playoff game. Your backs are against the wall. You lose, you can basically forget about it. You're playing another team that is in a similar mode. It's time for some of these guys to show up. I'm sure Nwosu will show up as much as he can. I'm sure we're going to get stuff out of him. I'm sure we're going to get some stuff out of Shelby Harris. He's been quiet lately, but he'll do what he can to grind out some pressures. But I'm looking at guys like Darrell Taylor and Boye Mafe, both who you got to give them time in this game. You got to put them out there, and you got to hope they're able to step up and deliver. So that's my first thought. That offensive line for the Jets seems to me to be their biggest problem. Their other problem has largely been quarterback. And in a game like this, when they have their main quarterback back, Mike White, as much as Mike White is not a great quarterback, maybe he's not even a good quarterback, he's a big step in the right direction over what they've had otherwise. He's competent. And look, this Seahawks team has gotten beat up and lost to some pretty lackluster quarterbacks this year. What's the difference between Sam Darnold and Mike White? What's the difference between Brock Purdy and Mike White? Not a whole lot. Honestly, this year, what's the difference between Tom Brady and Mike White? Not as much as you might think. That Jets offense is no better really than the Bucs offense, or no worse. So I don't know if that's going to be something we can take advantage of. You hope for some turnovers. You hope that he ends up force-feeding the ball Woolen's way, but you also know he's competent. One thing that has been noticed by many people when watching these Jets is that Garrett Wilson likes to line up on the left side, which means he'll be lining up on Tariq Woolen's side if he continues to do that. We like to leave Woolen over there, appropriately so. And we know that Garrett Wilson's a great player, and the Jets like to get him the ball because he's one of the best young receivers in the game already. So right away, you're like, okay, Woolen. This is your chance. Sauce is going to be on that other sideline. Sauce is over there watching. Make some plays. Let's turn this Defensive Rookie of the Year argument around because you know everything is trending Sauce's way right now. Much like how everything is trending Garrett Wilson's way right now in the Rookie of the Year conversation. This game is a great chance to maybe start flipping it back the other way. Because if this Jets team ends the year with a winning record or a losing record out of the playoffs, and the Seahawks end this season with a winning record and they're in the playoffs, you got to figure that's going to sway some people towards your boys. So hopefully we can take advantage of that. This Jets team, not much of a running game right now. They lost their main running back months ago. James Robinson's been a healthy scratch in some of these games. Their running game is kind of an afterthought right now. I think against Jacksonville, they ran the ball for less than a yard per carry. Should be able to stop the run against this team, if anybody. And I know I'm kind of tempting fate saying that, but the last couple games, they've been a little bit better against the run. We haven't seen the garbage that we saw against teams like the Panthers or the Buccaneers. Not as much. So, should be able to hold up against this rushing attack that really just got nothing going for it since Breece Hall left months ago. And you put all that stuff together, and it's going to come down to Mike White against this pass defense. So, the key, get pressure on Mike White. He's not a great quarterback. I don't even know if he's a good quarterback. He's competent. He's probably about as good as a guy like a Sam Darnold. You put him in a position to make mistakes, he probably will. We haven't had a turnover in 3 weeks here in Seattle. Now's the time. And you don't even know if Mike White's going to be at 100%. He's just getting back from a rib injury. You don't know if he's going to be all the way there. He might have more in common with a guy like a Brock Purdy, actually, in terms of his competency at this moment. So, that's what I can say about this one. How do I feel about it right now? Early in the week, I felt really good. But then we heard about Mike White. Then we heard about Will Dissly. Then I looked at the Jets injury report that was mostly clean. Then I looked at ours that is trending in the right direction, but might not get there. And I got to tell you, I just don't know. I am going to go down swinging. Here, may as well. I'm going to say Seahawks 20, Jets 17, something like that. I'm going to say the defense finds a way. They stop the run against a team that really doesn't run the ball that well this year. And they're going to find a way to get a little bit of a running game going, force some turnovers, and that should make the difference. Should be able to win the special teams battle. That's been one thing this Seahawks team has gotten really good at. They have a really good special teams unit. That could swing the game easily. 3-point, if it's going to be a one-score game, you know special teams is going to have a role to play in all this. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with 20-17 Seahawks, but I am kind of watching through my fingers. I don't feel great about it. There's nothing to feel good about right now with the Seahawks except their special teams in the short term. Long term, things are great. Things are awesome long term, my God. But yeah, short term, that's it's a nervous proposition. It's a nervous proposition to know Quinnen Williams is going up against our interior offensive line. Nervous proposition. This defense going up against really any offense. You just got to tough through it. You got to plow through it. You got to know that these guys are aware of the stakes. You got to know that this team is aware that this is a playoff game. And I don't know if anyone's job is on the line here. Probably not. But if this team goes from 6-3, leading their division, to 7-10 or 8-9 being eliminated before the final week of the year, that's just embarrassing. We don't need that. We are not, if it happens, we will not be the only team in the league this year that collapsed, but we will be one of the teams that collapsed at the end. And that doesn't need to happen. So, 20-17, I say we run the ball. I say we get maybe, I'll say 100 yards for K9. Risky, but I don't think we're going to have Travis Homer, honestly. So, let's go with 100 yards for K9. I'm going to say we get a turnover or two from the Jets offense, and that's going to swing the game. All right. That's about the most optimistic take I can give you right now. I'll see you guys later. There should be another video later today. Should be some streaming on Twitch later tonight. Hope to catch you there. Peace out. Go Hawks. And let's keep this season alive. Let's keep the season alive and make Week 18 fun.